I think that's where we sort of jump straight into the topic today, because the changes and what's going on and the sort of frenetic pace in the world. There's a whole trace through human history of certain prophecies and projections to do with the future, which all seem to be sort of coming together and weaving together at this time. And we wanted to, unpack that a little bit and have a look at some of them, what they say about the future, which we're living in now, really. So,
yeah. Before we get into it, people are always reminding me to mention the Ruby Mountain course itself, because this channel we set up as a kind of extension or another doorway to the Ruby Mountain journey, which is a online journey through different subjects. We call them trails. So there's a trail about the electrical side of the human being. There's a trail about the universe, different laws and factors within the universe that are relevant to personal development. Lots of interesting stuff. People participate from all around the world. There's an online study, and at the same time that a person can do at their own speed. At the same time, we have live engagements. As well as the online series that a person can study in their own time, at their own pace. Darren is there, I'm there, and Kani Zor in Israel is there for live meetings. So it's a very vibrant affair, and we hope you take a look. You're welcome to visit before you register, and check it out on the website down below in the description.
Yeah, and that's a lovely thing about these videos. There's a whole range of topics that we've covered, and we will be working through in the near future. But all of that is contained in the Ruby Mountain course. So if you find these interested, we go into a lot more detail in the online course itself.
Yes, yeah. But yes, so you're right, Darren. This is the idea of the call today, to talk about prophecy. And it's always something, whether a person believes or not, or understands what it's about. There's something intriguing about it, isn't there, that certain peoples of the past and all around the world, this is part of what we're going to be looking at today. There are these prophecies, or what's the other word for it? Visions of the future, that there will be more changes and different corners of the earth, and some of them correspond in strange ways, and we want to try to see in what ways they correspond. What is the central message within the different prophecies? Yeah. Because we believe if it is as it appears, there's a kind of convergence starting to happen. It's a bit like if you start at any point at the bottom of a mountain, and all these prophecies or lines of understanding of the different people, the Maya, the Inca, the Maori, the Aborigine, all these things, the Bible over here, and the Zulu nation over there, all these they're kind of converging at the top of the mountain. They're all going to meet, because they're all talking about something that applies to the human, the human race.
And that's the thing, isn't it, Colin, that the word prophecy is connected to the word prophet. So these prophets in the Bible and in ancient times, that was their role. The different priests had a different role. Everybody had a different role in that structure. But the prophet specifically was to do with these visions and ideas of the future. And even in native tribes, you always had the shaman. You always had this person who somehow had a natural inclination, and that was trained up further to see what was coming, to seek answers to problems, to help the tribe and to help people. So we've kind of lost that function in the modern world, but for thousands of years that they were as important as the builder and the farmer and the healers. The prophets and the seers and the visionaries are always very, very important. And that's one of the things, touching upon this area, it's amazing now in retrospect, just how accurate and how prescient some of those predictions have been, which goes into that whole thing. How did they actually do that? How did these prophecies come about?
Just to slip in a joke before we go on, everything used to revolve around profits back in the day. Today, everything still revolves around profit, right? But it's PROFIT. That's the little joke. Joke is finished, but profit is still important, but spelled differently.
Well, that's actually a very profound joke, because that talks about a shift. And I think, that's one of the things as we go through this, there seems to be this concurrent message of a change and of a shift in our time and in the future moving on from here. So let's have a look at some of those. Let's
go. And as you said a few minutes ago, things are speeding up. And if you look in nature, if you look at things like a seashell, you get that spiral, or even the idea of the Mayan pyramids that have layers upon layers upon layers upon layers, recording periods of time. And you look at the evolution of man from Lucy through to the speed of the appearance of Homo sapiens sapien. There's a speeding up that's gone on, isn't there?
Yes, speeding up of discoveries, of breakthroughs, of inventions. I mean, it really is like an exponential curve. And I think that's the thing, is that why it's so useful to look at ancient civilizations and how they thought and what their view was about life in the universe, because we're so used to our way of living. And so even speed, rates of change, it's normal to us. But, my great-grandmother, Edna, she died at 95, but she was born in 1879. And she grew up on a farm in rural New Zealand. So they went to school on a horse. It was all horse and cart stuff for transporting produce to market. And, top speed is about 5 miles an hour for a horse and cart. And then you look at 1903, which she would have still been a young girl, the invention of powered flight with the Wright brothers. And then the speed goes up to about 30 miles per hour. And, people say that people would go into shock traveling at that speed, that had never traveled at that speed before. It was like a shock to the system. Then by World War II, you're looking at aircraft traveling at 115 miles per hour. By World War II, it's around 300 to 400 miles per hour. So you're getting this increase in speed. And of course, what goes with that is the increase in invention and technology, because by the 1960s, you've got the jet age. And so those jet fighters in Korea would be 680 miles per hour. So the technology changes, the speed increases. And then in 1969, with the Concorde, you're looking at 1,300 miles per hour. So that's like almost a doubling of the speed. And then by the 1980s, with rockets and space flight, they're traveling at about 3,000 miles per hour once they take off and get going. And then with the space shuttle being released from that rocket outside of the Earth's atmosphere, you're looking at about 1,700 miles per hour that travels as it's orbiting the Earth. So my great-grandmother lived up to the time of the Concorde. So for hundreds of years, this 5 miles an hour on a horse. And again, it's nature's technology. Someone invented a wheel and hitched it to a horse, but not much had changed for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then really at the beginning of the last century, you get this incredible increase in technology and the speeds of everything, the rates of change. And I remember when in my 20s, when I did my apprenticeship, computers first started to come into being used, and they were really expensive. I think my company spent almost $1 million on the first graphics computer. And within 5 years, it was out on the road in the rubbish collection because it had been totally superseded. Constantly changing, superseding new technology. So, and of course, what goes with that is the increase in intelligence and perception, because all of that technology, all of those inventions are making breakthroughs in physics and science to be able to achieve those new results. So we're used to it. But if you look at something like my great-grandmother, she saw the whole span of it. my children have been born into this. They don't know anything else.